our broadcast tonight, in a meeting with President Park Geun-hye, Chinese leader Xi Jinping promises to step up efforts to denuclearize North Korea and support Seoul's plan to build up trust with Pyongyang. Japan's sincerity in facing its wartime wrongdoings is under question ahead of the country's first summit with South Korea in almost 2 years, with a higher-ranking official making contradictory comments. Plus, Korea opens its first gold trading market, waiving transaction commissions for the first year. But these stories and more next on Primetime News. Good evening to our viewers in Korea, and hello to those of you who are watching from around the world. It's Monday, March 24th here in Seoul. I'm Ji Hye.
And I'm Sean Lim. Thank you so much for joining us. We begin this evening in The Hague, where in about an hour from now, the third Nuclear Security Summit will officially kick off. As the leader of the most recent 2012 summit host nation, President Park Geun-hye is expected to give remarks at the opening session.
We'll be bringing you live coverage of the president's speech at 11 p.m. Korea time. But first, we start off with the wrap-up of President Park's packed day in the Netherlands. From her bilateral talks with Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte and a summit with her Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping, we connect live to our presidential office correspondent Choi You-sun in The Hague. Now, You-sun, how did the summit go with the Dutch leader?
Hi, Jie. During their nearly hour-long meeting, President Park and Dutch Prime Minister Rutte agreed to expand economic ties, highlighting that the Netherlands is Korea's third-largest trading partner and #1 EU investing nation. President Park welcomed Dutch participation in Korea's Northeast Asia oil hub project. The Dutch government expressed high hopes for greater cooperation with Korea in the areas of energy, biotechnology, health and information and communications, especially through the Korea-EU FTA. Now, this is the first time a Korean president has made an official visit to the Netherlands, although President Park had visited the country 3 years ago as a presidential envoy. She was just one of 2 state leaders invited for lunch by Dutch King Willem-Alexander this week. But many are also eyeing a trilateral meeting between President Park, U.S. President Barack Obama, and Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe on the sidelines of the nuclear summit. I'll bring you details of that later, but today the big event will be President Park's opening speech alongside the Dutch Prime Minister and UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon starting at 11 p.m. Monday, Korea time.
And You-sun, President Park earlier on Monday discussed dealing with North Korea's nuclear program with her Chinese counterpart.
Right, Sean. Meeting President Xi for the 4th time ahead of the summit, President Park stressed Pyongyang cannot achieve economic development while continuing with its nuclear weapons program. And to that end, President Xi said China opposes North Korea as a nuclear weapons state and that Beijing is, in its own way, persuading its ally to fulfill its previous international denuclearization pledges. The Chinese leader then endorsed President Park's trust-building initiatives on the Korean peninsula and policies for a peaceful reunification. President Park said a unified Korean peninsula would be nuclear-free, symbolic of peace, generating a new growth engine in Northeast Asia. And on the trade front, the 2 leaders also agreed that the negotiations for a Korea-China FTA should be completed within the year. And that's basically all I have for now, but I'll be bringing more details on our next newscast. Back to you guys in the studio.
All right, You-sun, thank you very much for that report. That was our presidential office correspondent Choi You-sun on President Park's trip to The Hague.
And ahead of that trilateral summit among Korea, the U.S., and Japan scheduled for Tuesday, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said it's important to face history and pass it on to the next generation.
But his sincerity is once again in question after contradictory comments made from his close aide. Hwang Sung-hee has the details.
Visiting the Anne Frank House Museum in Amsterdam on Sunday, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe stressed the importance of preserving history for the next generation.
We would like to face the historical facts in a humble manner, but also we'd like to pass on the lessons and the facts of history to the next generation.
The Anne Frank house is where the German-born Jewish girl kept a diary of her life in hiding before she died in a Nazi concentration camp. Abe's visit to one of the best-known memorials to the victims of the Holocaust is being seen as a diplomatic move ahead of his first official meeting with his South Korean counterpart. President Park Geun-hye has been refusing to meet Abe until just days ago when he vowed to uphold Japan's landmark apology issued in 1993 to the victims of its wartime sexual enslavement during the Second World War. South Korea, Japan, and the United States will meet for a trilateral summit on the sidelines of the Nuclear Security Summit, which Tokyo hopes will serve as an occasion to thaw relations with Seoul.
Since it will be my first official meeting with President Park, I hope it will be our first step towards building a future-oriented bilateral relations.
But a comment made by Abe's special advisor, Koichi Hagiuda, on Sunday is once again raising eyebrows about Japan's sincerity. Referring to a recent row between Japan and Korea over a reported plan to revise the 1993 apology, Hagiuda stressed Abe did not deny the possibility of issuing a new statement over the matter. He said Tokyo should consider issuing a new political statement on the so-called comfort women issue if fresh findings emerge while the government verifies how the apology was prepared. South Korea's foreign ministry said it was inappropriate for a high-level Japanese official to deny the recent pledges made by Abe and urged Tokyo to reaffirm its stance. 황성희, Arirang News.
And foreign experts' take on the South Korea-China summit. We bring in Dr. Chung Ki-young, Senior Research Fellow at the Center for International Area Studies at Hague University of Foreign Studies. Welcome to the program.
Glad to be here.
Well, Dr. Chung, President Park's one-on-one with Chinese President Xi Jinping certainly held a place of honor. It was her first scheduled event of her European tour and comes ahead of the trilateral summit between Korea, U.S., and Japan. What significance does this timing hold?
Well, the timing and the meaning of Korea-China summit can be viewed with 3 points. Well, the first is that the Korea-China summit showed off the close relationship between the two countries and between the two leaders. And the second is that by allocating the Korea-China summit before the trilateral meetings, Korea could deliver its concerns about China's possible anxiety that can be caused by the trilateral meetings of the United States, Korea, and Japan. And the third is that China could send signals to other countries. For Korea to cope with the pending issues in Northeast Asia, cooperation with China is extremely needed. So by having the Korea-China summit, Korea could show that the two countries will cooperate in various ways, and this can call attention from other countries.
And during the talks, the two leaders reaffirmed that North Korea should be denuclearized. Will this unified stance have any effect on the possible resumption of six-party talks?
To talk about the resumption of six-party talks, well, the Chinese delegation chief of six-party talks would always visit to North Korea that took place last week should be mentioned first. Well, Mr. Udawei's visit to North Korea took place last week, and it was expected that China would try to persuade North Korea for other members of six-party talks to hold the meetings again by trying to persuade North Korea. So, in a sense, with the assumption that the meetings on Hague would be successful, I think that the six-party talks would be resumed within the near future.
Well, recently the United Nations released a report on human rights violations in North Korea. President Park mentioned this report and the possible veto of China on this investigation. Do you think that her words will have an effect on the Chinese leader?
Well, I don't think so, but for China, North Korea is a card that cannot be discarded easily, and taking the power distribution of Northeast Asia into consideration, we can easily expect that China will not give up North Korea easily. And when it comes to the human rights issue, China is not free from the topic at all. So, and I don't think that China would give up North Korea easily, in any circumstances.
So overall, the Korea-China summit seems to have served as a venue in which the two sides have solidified their close ties. Will the meeting have any impact on the upcoming Korea-U.S.-Japan trilateral meeting?
Unfortunately, after the trilateral meeting was confirmed yesterday, Hague Goichi, the special assistant to Japanese Prime Minister, expressed negative attitude again regarding the 1993 Kono statement. This kind of about-face attitude might dampen the already deteriorated and frozen relationship between China and Korea, between Korea and Japan. And taking Japanese attitude and Prime Minister Abe Shinzo's ambiguous attitude into consideration, the trilateral summit, unlikely to defrost the frozen relations with Japan.
All right, Dr. Chung, thank you so much for joining us in the studio today.
Thank you for having me.
If everything goes according to plan, Korea will have a leader fighting.
The President Park Geun-hye.
Your gateway to the day's biggest stories in Korea and around the world. Breaking news, the hottest interviews, and a whole lot more. Join Arirang's Sean Lim and Yoo Ji-hye from the heart of Seoul. Primetime news, weeknights, live at 10 on Arirang TV.
Next general elections.
If all goes according to plan, Korea will ink a deal to purchase 40 F-35A fighter jets from Washington later this year. They'll be going through the so-called foreign military sales process, which could save the government hundreds of millions of dollars. Our Defense Ministry correspondent Kim Hyun-bin has more.
Korea has announced plans to buy 40 F-35A fifth-generation fighter jets from Lockheed Martin later this year. The Defense Acquisition Program Administration said Monday that will go through the U.S. government's foreign military sales process and complete negotiations with Washington over prices and conditions in the third quarter. The FMS process gives a foreign country the ability to pay the amount specified set by the U.S. government at the time of delivery, not when the contract is signed. Korea's total budget for the fighter jet project is approximately 7.4 trillion won, or roughly $6.8 billion US. A recent assessment by Lockheed Martin suggested that the price for one F-35A could drop to $80 million by 2019, when production is in full swing. It said that could eventually mean lower prices for international buyers, including Korea. The DAPA said it will monitor the development of the F-35, which has not been tested on the battlefield yet, and whether it fits with all of Korea's military requirements. With an eye on North Korea, the DAPA also approved a plan to purchase an unspecified number of RQ-4 Global Hawk unmanned aerial surveillance vehicles through FMS. The high-altitude, long-endurance unmanned aerial vehicle can operate in all-weather conditions and distinguish an object as small as 0.3 meters in size, while carrying 1,400 kilograms of internal payload. Experts say the state-of-the-art spy plane fits well with South Korea's missile defense system called the Kill Chain, which is designed to detect impending missile attacks and launch preemptive strikes. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Korea has opened its first ever gold exchange market as part of efforts to bring the underground economy out to the open and help rein in tax evasion and illegal transactions. Our Kim Ji-yeon has more.
Korea's first ever gold exchange market opened its trading doors to the public on Monday. It offers a place for dealers and private investors to make gold transactions. 1 gram units of gold bullion of 99.99% purity are bought and sold in the exchange market. 8 securities firms and 49 futures trading companies have registered and participated in the trading. Investors can withdraw gold from the exchange in units of kilograms. The trading prices of gold are adjusted in real time, with 1 gram closing the first day at just over 46,000 Korean won, or $43.5 US. This is all part of the government's efforts to prevent tax evasion and the illegal trade of the precious metal. Individuals in Korea own an estimated 700 tons of gold, 7 times the amount held by the Bank of Korea. Nearly 70 tons is thought to be traded each year without being taxed. The Korea Exchange says transaction fees will be waived until March of next year to help the exchange platform take root.
It is expected to offer a stable and efficient trading environment for dealers and potential investors and boost the liquidity of gold within the next 2 years.
The market will be open from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. weekdays. Gold can be withdrawn from 5 other Korea Exchange offices outside of the capital city of Seoul. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
And on the culture front, the Korean wave washed ashore in China this past weekend. A K-pop concert co-hosted by Arirang TV in Shanghai on Saturday featured some of the industry's hottest acts and drew thousands of fans from all over the country. And as our Yulian reports, the concert is just the first of many to come.
K-pop fans in China filled this 18,000-seat stadium on Saturday for the Simply K-pop Tour 2014 in Shanghai. The concert was organized by Arirang TV, Korea's only global television network, and Chinese satellite broadcaster Dragon TV, which reaches 1 billion viewers in China.
I prepared flowers for G-Dragon to cheer him up for the concert. I've been his fan for 6 years, and I hope he will visit China more often.
Some diehard fans didn't even give a second thought to traveling by car over 10 hours to the venue.
I drove all the way from Shandong. I've been waiting for 2 months for this concert.
I'm a big fan of crayon pop, so I decided to wear this helmet to the concert.
This is just a small glimpse into the K-pop craze that's been rapidly expanding in China in recent years, and fans didn't miss out on the chance to see their favorite acts in person. A total of 12 artists, including Big Bang's G-Dragon and Taeyang, are all here at the Mercedes-Benz Arena for the spectacular 3-hour concert. And this concert is the first of many more to come. Along with Arirang TV and Dragon TV, the concert was hosted by entertainment management agencies Intercrew based in Korea and JY Entertainment in China. The 4 groups signed a memorandum of understanding ahead of the concert, agreeing to promote more cultural exchanges between China and Korea. That includes more concerts and even television programs.
I'm excited to work with Korea's Arirang TV, and I hope to deepen our relationship through more projects together in the future.
The concert will be broadcast on Arirang TV to over 100 million households around the world on April 11th and 18th. Yurian, Arirang News, Shanghai.
Let's get the latest on the top stories on the global front, from the possible sighting of debris from that missing Malaysian airliner to new revelations from the Edward Snowden leaks. We go live to our Paul Lee at the News Center.
So, Paul, let's start with what could be another lead in the search for that missing plane. Give us the details.
Well, Australian planes have reportedly spotted 2 objects in the southern Indian Ocean, supporting earlier sightings by a Chinese plane in roughly the same area. The latest breakthrough in the search for the missing Boeing 777 came from new data from a French satellite, which showed potential debris in the remote seas southwest of Australia. France's foreign ministry said radar echoes had picked up several objects about 2,300 kilometers from the city of Perth. Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott said a naval ship was being sent to investigate these new sightings, with a U.S. Navy Poseidon and Japanese Orion vessel also en route. Malaysian authorities are saying that the area could be reached within the next few hours or by tomorrow morning at the latest. Shifting to the latest developments in Ukraine, NATO's Supreme Allied Commander in Europe, General Philip Breedlove, has warned of the significant threat of Russian forces gathering on the border with eastern Ukraine. Speaking in Brussels on Sunday, Breedlove said the massive Russian military force is very sizable and very ready, and could even pose a threat to Moldova on the other side of the country. Moscow says it is complying with international agreements on troop deployments and that it has no plans to invade any country. Kiev's interim President Alexander Turchinov, meanwhile, has ordered the full withdrawal of Ukrainian armed forces from Crimea. He said the decision was made due to growing Russian threats to military personnel and their families. Looking now at the latest updates of a massive mudslide in the U.S. state of Washington. Authorities say at least 8 people have now been confirmed dead, and with 8 others reportedly injured. Officials say there's still a number of people who remain unaccounted for after the deadly mix of mud, water, and rock smashed into a mountainside community, destroying some 30 homes. Experts say the mudslide was likely triggered Sunday by unsteady ground soaked with heavy rainfall over the past month. Local authorities say everything is being done to search for survivors amid the dangerous conditions across the flowing terrain. The landslides happened along State Route 530 near Oso, Washington, near the Canadian border. And finally, turning to the newest revelations surrounding the U.S. spy agency. Recently released documents show the NSA hacked into the email servers of Chinese tech giant Huawei 5 years ago. The German weekly Der Spiegel cited in their report classified documents leaked by former intelligence contractor Edward Snowden. It says the National Security Agency targeted and gained access to Huawei's client database and email archives in early 2009. The latest reports reveal the U.S. spy agency even targeted top Chinese officials, including former President Hu Jintao. Beijing's foreign ministry says it is deeply concerned about the reports and has demanded a clear explanation from Washington on the alleged surveillance. That wraps up our international look at international stories around the world. I'll see you back here tomorrow night.
Hello and welcome to Primetime Sports. I'm Stephen Che. The Korea Baseball Organization season is set to dawn after a cold, long winter. And the league's 9 teams, their coaches and players gathered at a press event in Seoul to mark the occasion. They discussed the big off-season changes to each team, as well as the KBO as a whole, but each of the team's messages were clear: to win the championship. And speaking of that, the Samsung Lions will attempt to become the second team to win 4 titles in a row this season, but with 2 key players gone, their journey has become tougher. Well, the first pitches of the 33rd KBO season will be thrown on Saturday, with 8 of the league's 9 teams in action on opening day. Now let's head to golf. First in the PGA, Matt Every was victorious at the Arnold Palmer Invitational at Bay Hill for the first PGA Tour win of his 7-year career. Every lifted the trophy after scoring a combined 13 under par, as Adam Scott, who had a huge lead going into the weekend, failed to close out strong. And with that, the 30-year-old got his first win on the tour in 93 starts and earned his first ticket to the Masters tournament next month. Meanwhile, on the ladies' side, World Golf Hall of Famer Carrie Webb rallied from behind to win the JTBC Founders Cup in Phoenix, Arizona. The 39-year-old Aussie started the final round 6 shots off the leader, Lydia Go, but went on a 10-birdie tear, offset by a lone bogey, to eventually finish at 19 under par. Meanwhile, the world's #1 Park Geun-hye ended at tied for 10th, but retained her top ranking for the 50th straight week. And moving on to Spanish League football, Barcelona defeated La Liga rivals Real Madrid 4-3 in another El Clasico thriller. Calls of controversy rang loud as 3 penalties, 1 to Real and 2 to Barca, were awarded. But at the end of the fight, Lionel Messi's hat-trick drowned out the noise. The win puts Barca back in the title fight, just 1 point behind co-league leaders Real and Atletico Madrid. The 2 rivals will meet one last time this season at the Copa del Rey finals next month. Let's now get to playoff action in the KBL. The LG Sakers hosted the KT Sonic Boom for Game 2 of the semifinals. LG comes into it seeking their second win at home, and they come out firing in front of the home crowd, taking a 7-point lead into halftime. Now KT does their best to contain the hot-handed Sakers and Kim Jong-gyu, who ends the night with 16 points, but LG gets the crucial win, 71-61, heading to Game 3 in Busan. And that's all I have for now. This has been Stephen Che. I'll see you back here later for more from the world of sports.
Well, I hear we may need our umbrellas tomorrow as spring showers are on the way.
That's right. For more, let's go over to our Kim Bo-kyung at the Weather Center. Bo-kyung, hello.
Good evening, guys. This round of rain will begin in Jeju tomorrow morning and gradually spread to most parts of the country. Over 80 millimeters of rain may fall on the mountains of Jeju, which is more precipitation than an average spring shower. The Gyeongsang, Namdo, and both Jeollado provinces are forecast to get about 10 to 40 millimeters of precipitation. The higher than the seasonal average temperature should continue for a while, with numbers jumping to the low teens towards the end of the week. And currently, the central regions are under the influence of a low pressure trough, which is why we're seeing cloudy skies across the map. A dry weather warning has been issued in Gangwon-do province, where humidity levels are down to the mid to high teens, so watch out for starting forest fires. Let's go over to Tuesday's readings. Seoul and Daegu make it to 19 degrees, while Gwangju and Busan hit the mid-teens. Moving on to other regions, Jeju peaks at 17 degrees, while Dokdo and Mount Kumgang top out at 13 and 11. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Bo-kyung. And that's our broadcast on this Monday night. I'm Yoo Ji-hye in Seoul.
And I'm Sean Lim. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.